Thank you so much. I'll recognize myself now. Let me start, Mr. Secretary, setting a couple of things straight. I'm sure you'll agree with me that every American should have the freedom to buy whatever kind of car they want.
Agreed.
But when more people buy EVs, the overall demand for gas goes down, right? Which means that the price of gas also goes down for everybody who still exercises their choice to buy a gas-guzzling car. So this is a win-win. I don't understand why this has become a partisan or tribal issue in America. And then when it comes to gas prices and Putin, I remember the days immediately after Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Virtually all of my Republican colleagues were taking to the airwaves demanding that President Biden ban Russian oil. Every single speech on the House floor and committee hearings confronting administration officials coming to brief us, and all of us knew perfectly well that this would result in gas prices going up. You cannot take the #2 world's exporter of oil offline in a day without having that effect. And in those days, I drafted a House resolution that would have urged President Biden to do exactly that, to ban Russian oil, but in the text, acknowledging that there would be economic sacrifices for the American people, hoping that we could come together as Democrats and Republicans patriotically urging the president to do the right thing, but taking common responsibility. And I couldn't find a single Republican to sign on to that resolution because apparently some people wanted the president to do it and then to blame him for the consequences. And unfortunately, we're still seeing that today. With that, I want to ask you about what I always ask you about, which is the Gateway program for New Jersey and New York. We've made such extraordinary progress working with you and your team. We ended the Trump-era policy that made it harder for states to finance their portion of big infrastructure projects. We finally got the environmental impact statement done for the tunnel. We secured an improved project rating from the Federal Transit Administration. We signed a full funding grant agreement to replace the Portal North Bridge, and we'll be breaking ground on that essential project in the coming days. And just 2 weeks ago, New Jersey and New York agreed on how they're going to split the costs of this incredibly important project at the state level. And then, of course, we passed the infrastructure bill that will fund this. But just as I pushed really hard to get us to this point, I'm going to push just as hard to get this done faster. And I understand these projects are complicated. They don't get built overnight, but I'm sure you won't be surprised to hear my constituents are not going to be happy to hear statements like this could go until 2035. It's not going to be acceptable. So I actually want to echo Mr. Johnson's question to you about why infrastructure project delivery in the United States takes so long and costs so much in comparison with other wealthy countries that have equally strong labor and environmental standards as the United States. What are we going to do about it, and how can we apply those measures to this project, the Gateway project for New Jersey and New York? Thank you.
Well, thank you. First of all, let me share your enthusiasm for making sure that the Gateway project is a success. It holds the potential to ease congestion, to provide better service, to create stronger redundancy and availability for intercity rail, and a whole number of other issues that will be very important for the Northeast Corridor and represent such an economically significant set of transportation activities that the entire country will benefit. And in particular, I want to applaud the agreement that was reached between New York and New Jersey, knowing that it's never a small or easy thing for two states to agree on cost sharing. And I called Governor Murphy and Governor Hochul to express my appreciation for their leadership on that. It is a project or a set of projects that will, I think, test us in terms of our ability to reduce the gap between the cost it takes to deliver a project in the U.S. and the cost you see in a lot of other Western countries. While I can't point to any single factor that explains the difference, there are a number of things that we know contribute to it. Part of it is the complexity of aligning the different parties, and so that's why we're so pleased to see the states collaborating in this regard. Also, the Gateway Development Commission now has its executive director named. That's also, we think, a very positive development because it gives you the unified leadership that you need. We also want to inventory best practices from other countries or other parts of the U.S. that have been quicker than others while maintaining project quality. And we are driving ourselves very hard internally to try to make sure the process is as smooth and as straightforward as possible. We think that with the right level of intentionality, we can buck the trend of very large, very complex projects to go longer and cost more than they should.
Thank you so much. I yield